Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. This is part 2 of my 2-part special covering Poe Brain and his sunsets and sunrises prove the flat earth fiasco. I still don't know if he's kidding or not. He could just be the dumbest person on the internet or the worst Poe on YouTube. Somehow he thinks that even though the sun sets and rises, which it wouldn't do on a flat earth, he can say perspective enough and make it all true. DFOTY 2020, anyone? Anyway, grab your candy, grab your popcorn, come along with me and my massive headache, and let's have a good old laugh at old Poe Brain.
Hey everybody, Poe Brain here, and welcome to part 2 of my little 1 and 2 part series here on how the path of the sun proves a couple things. But before we get started, I want to tell you that
Nope. No t-shirt commercials this time, jackass.
Okay, so in part 1, I showed that the straight path of the sun moving over the earth proves a flat earth.
No, you repeatedly showed something that is impossible on a flat earth.
Right? Because in both models, flat earth and the heliocentric ball earth model, the sun remains parallel to the ground. And I showed if it were on the ball earth model, it would be parallel to the ground, but we would see it arcing.
This is the clip that makes me doubt how serious he is. The sun is 93 million miles away. It doesn't arc. That's the flat earth model with a close sun. If the flat earth model with a close sun was on a ball earth, it would do that because it would basically be in orbit of the earth. That's not the heliocentric model.
Right? Going over the curvature. And especially when I show time lapse like this is a good 2 hours of time lapse. That means the sun is moving a couple thousand miles. And yet we see a dead straight path, and that's completely consistent and indicative of a flat earth.
Man, I understand being a flat earther basically gives you a pass on thinking and reason, things like that. But you really should brush up on what your model would look like. Otherwise, you just seem pretty stupid.
Not a ball earth. Okay, so that I showed in the last video pretty conclusively.
The only thing you showed conclusively in the last video was how little you understand about the heliocentric model or the flat earth model.
But now, the part 2 that I promised is pretty cool too. Here we go.
Get ready, guys. He's about to drop some knowledge.
Not only does it prove the shape of the earth in this regard, it also proves that these rocket launches are going nowhere. They're going down. Okay, they go up and they go down. How do I know that?
You don't. Just like everything else, you have no idea what you're talking about. Those rockets go up and then curve because they're going into orbit around the curve of the Earth.
Well, look at the path. See the path going down? You say, well, but Poe Brain, perspective causes things to go and converge like these perspective lines or these wooden planks, right? Perspective causes everything to angle to your eye level.
It takes an incredible lack of knowledge about perspective for anyone to say something like that, which basically means only you and your sycophants would say that.
You know, all parallel lines and planes going away from you will converge to a point in the distance where the ground meets the sky, appears to. So what these rocket launches show that, yes, it's going down, and you could attribute that to perspective, but it's curving down.
Actually, what these rocket launches show, two things really. One, did you notice how the exhaust spreads out at one point? That's because it's outside the atmosphere or very high up in the atmosphere where there's low pressure. So it expands. Secondly, what those rocket launches show, and you said yourself, they're curving. because, like I said before, they're curving around the Earth.
Now, in both the flat Earth and the ball Earth model, the sun, as I said, is parallel to the ground. But what we visually see and what is hijacked by the ball earthers is like this. You see this straight line that the sun setting down toward the ground, and it's going in a straight line, that the sun setting down toward the ground, and it's going in a straight line, setting down toward the ground.
Yep, we see the sun setting towards the ground.
Well, they hijack that and say, well, that's what we see on a ball Earth.
And guess what? That is what we see on a ball Earth.
They have to say that. They have to hijack that. But that's clearly what we see on a flat Earth. It's kind of like what they do with motion, too. The fact that they say we're spinning and we're orbiting and we're flying through the cosmos at 1 billion miles per hour, whatever nonsense it is. They have to say, yeah, but this dead still Earth, this rock solid Earth that none of us have ever felt, and I'm not talking about movements in the ground like earthquakes and stuff. I'm saying as a general whole, the Earth as a whole, the world has never moved. It doesn't move. It's rock solid. Yet they hijacked and they co-opt that and they say, well, that's exactly what we expect to feel. We feel no movement. We expect to see no curvature.
We feel no movement because we're in our own inertial reference frame. You should take a vacation to Google. You might want to look some of this stuff up. You might learn something.
Just like Neil deGrasse said, that thing is flat. Doesn't matter how high you get. So this is how they've gaslighted us in humanity. And don't get me started on the global warming. That's another gaslighting that they're doing. And it's always follow the money, right?
Now there's an interesting idea. Follow the money. Where's the money in making everybody believe that the Earth is round when it's really flat? Is it NASA and their $20 billion a year budget? You'd think that considering the United States spends like $775 billion on defense, and that churches make about $130 billion a year, NASA would peddle bombs or Jesus instead of a fake round Earth.
So anyway, back to this. So the rocket launches are following a downward track, true, but they are curving downward. And you might say, oh, they're following the curvature of the Earth.
And if you said that, you'd be correct.
Then why isn't the sun? We see the sun here. The sun is moving thousands of miles in either the flat Earth or the ball Earth model, right? Yet no curvature. Actually, at the end, you see just before, watch this, just before it goes over the horizon, you see it lift off the line a little bit. That's completely opposite.
Do you think he actually thinks about what he says before he says it? Or does he completely disengage his brain before making a video?
That means, and what I think is going on there is that it's starting to make its turn to the right. That these would be videos from inside the circle of the circuiting sun, right? That has a circuiting path, a circular path. So maybe at that point in its path, it's getting a little closer and then it rises a little bit because that's how perspective works. When something is closer to you, it'll appear higher in the sky. That same height further away looks lower in the sky. That's how perspective works.
No, it would get smaller the farther it gets away. That's how perspective works.
So anyway, here's a rocket launch. It's very sped up. And you can see I put little circles around the rocket to show it's a downward curving path. That means it's going down because the sun is a straight path.
Now, I know you're either lying or you really don't get this. The curved path is the one that's entering Earth's orbit. It's very close. The straight path is the one that's 93 million miles away.
And not just the sun, let's look at these jet trails. Contrails / chemtrails / vapor trail, whatever you want to call them. They go straight. And most of these planes, when you see them, they're high altitude planes and they leave a straight trail. So why are these rockets curving downward? And these contrails, they're cruising altitude. So they're kind of cruising along parallel to the ground.
Show me a chemtrail left by an airplane flying at 250 miles above the Earth, and then we'll talk.
So again, this is a huge bust. These rockets are going nowhere except maybe into the ocean. That's about it. Or wherever else they can fly them to. But that's why they go out over the ocean. And remember, the sun is traversing parallel to the ground. And yet, with perspective convergence, it causes this downward slant, but it's a straight line, right? In either model, it's parallel to the ground. The reality of what we see is a straight line. This is actual footage. This is time lapse of the sun. And when I'm putting a line on it, the path is straight. The rocket is curving down. And the rocket is said to be elevating. It's rising. It's gaining altitude as it launches away. They say, yeah, it does kind of a maneuver. It goes somewhat, kind of flattens out, but it never goes parallel to the ground, and it never comes closer to the Earth. It's always gaining altitude. So if anything, it should be an upward curve, not a downward curve. If a sun moving parallel to the ground and these jet trails produce a straight line, then this curving down can only tell you one thing.
Yeah, I can only tell you one thing, that it's going around the curve of the Earth. This guy is the worst Poe. I mean, really the worst Poe. Poe Brain, you make me sick, dude. Anyway, if you like my videos and you like my content, you'd like to see more of it, give the video a like, the channel a subscribe, and come back next time. And until then, as always, have a good day.